Hey, everybody, here we are. We are doing our standout program. This is the program that really elevates your game. It's going to make all the difference in whether or not you're successful or not. And so, the topic today, because each and every time I try to dive into different aspects of what makes a person stand out. So, the obvious things that we can all recognize in the people that we find famous or successful or something that draws you to them is maybe their physical appearance, the sound of their voice. What are they doing with their hair? Like me, do you wear glasses or not? Are you wearing some crazy clothes? And so, if there is something that you're doing physically that's really grabbing someone's attention, I think that you can definitely appreciate that, okay, that's working. And then you want to double down and do it all the time. Do that physical appearance all the time. Let's look at, for you, what that might be. Is it your shoes? Is it your hair? Just think of it as I'm saying it and write it down. Is it wearing a bandana around your head like Billie Eilish, right? That's a look right now for her. And she'll probably rock that look for a period of time. If you're thinking of red lipstick for Taylor Swift, is that something that she's had for the last 20 years? Yes. And so, is there something about you that you love? So, I think the biggest thing that many people who work with me recognize that it's really not just doing it what you think is going to get the attention of the audience, but rather what you love naturally. Are there some colors that you really love? So, we're talking about really physical appearance first in terms of standing out. I also mentioned that the voice has to stand out. As a vocal and performance coach to so many people, that's one of the things that I'm paying attention to is how does the person speak when they walk into the room and work with me for the first time? Maybe we hop on a Zoom call and we're working and I'm noticing also how do they wear their hair? What colors do they like? To wear? Do they smile or do they kind of frown? Is there something intense about them? Is there something light and sort of fun about your personality? And can it come across a camera? Can it come across through your phone or through a Zoom? Certainly in person. We know that a person can change the temperature of the room when they really are confident in who they are. It's always a debate of who you are, by the way, in terms of that physical appearance, really reflecting those adjectives that really you want to bring out. Like I was saying, is it serious or is it fun? Is it optimistic or pessimistic? Is it intense or is it lighthearted? Do you want to appear physically alive or are you more chill? These are kind of broad stroke personality types, but they really get reflected in your physicality. And second, in the tone, texture, pronunciation of how you are engaging in your language, your communication skills, whether you speak really, really high, maybe you speak up here and then it's so energetic and oh my God, I'm like amazing, this is so fun to work with you. It's so fun to perform for you. People that you might know really are vibrating high in terms of energy level, the pitch, the tone, texture of their voice is really high. They speak really quickly in terms of pace. Does this make sense? Here's where it gets a little tricky for some of you is whether or not that is relating to the music that you're making. And I'm not sure a lot of people pay enough attention to that. So let's do a little exercise together, shall we? This is going to be kind of fun. So if we think about personality and standing out, okay, I want to stand out in the world. Let's make a list. And we're going to say personality. And then I want you to put your music or what you do. Okay. So obviously I attract mostly people who are in the music industry, but if you happen to be watching this and you're not in music, then this is sort of what you do here. Okay. So here's my personality. And usually it's broad stroke personality type. So if we're again thinking of, are you an optimist here? Are you a pessimist? Are you energetic and really fun? Or are you more chill, more serious? Do you want people to feel comforted by your personality, or do you want to alarm people? Do you want to shock people? I always think of Lady Gaga in her meat dress, right? Showing up and wearing something crazy, a huge hat, for example, or crazy hair. Or I saw the most amazing show last night. I live in Toronto, so wherever you live, maybe you know this artist, but I have coached years and years and years ago, Stacey K. She's not only I think she was in the top 20 on America's Got Talent. She was a finalist here for Canada's Got Talent. She's performed with all huge artists for corporate shows and private shows. She's toured. She's an incredible public speaker. She's really a personality. So go check her out. So she has a real look. And so her hair, she loves to wear a ponytail, and the hair is kind of in an ombre, so it's dark at the top, and then she wears it in like pink. Sometimes the ponytail's blue. So this is what I'm trying to say, is there's something in your personality, like she is bold, she is a bit crazy, super high energy. And so now if we write down those adjectives here, okay, let's say there's 5 of them. Now I want you to write down the things that you do. And you want to start to notice, oh yeah, that really matches, and that really matches. And if they don't, it's a problem. Can you see how that would be a problem? If what I do is low energy, but I, in my personality, wear crazy clothes, that dichotomy might be a struggle for people. However, the dichotomy could also work too. As I'm saying that, I've noticed it, but it might be a bit jarring for people to really connect to what you do. So let's say I again speak super high energy. I've had some artists who do this. Hey, everybody, they come out onto stage and they're speaking like crazy fast, really, really high. Oh my God, this is so amazing. You guys are so fabulous. I'm so excited to be here. You guys are awesome. I am now going to do a serious song that I wrote when I was 14, and it was a dark time, right? So what they're doing in this moment is sort of down, okay? Let's say down, but their personality is high. So that doesn't exactly work in terms of drawing a connection to the audience. Does that make sense? You could also put here even a third bracket, and it could be other, artists, people, your competition, people who are doing this thing that you want to do at a slightly higher level. And notice what maybe their personality is. And notice too, if there's any comparisons. This is another way of standing out, because if this person that you've decided, that you're similar to, that you really appreciate, is in the same ball, the same zone as you, whether or not that can connect here. Does that make sense? That your personality is similar. Now, why is that important? So let's take it to that next level. Why is that important? Is this. It's so great to have you guys here and watching. Okay, it's the audience, isn't it? It's like, who do I want to actually stand out to? I want to stand out to the audience, but we've got to define the audience, because I think when we're just thinking about who I am, which is super important, that was the first part. I have to know what I'm comfortable in. I've got to know what I want to wear. I often will tell people, do not hire a stylist at the beginning of your career. It is so much better if you can get a stylist, if you have that budget, or certainly some friends that have really good fashion sense, or just are really trustworthy. Just go into your own closet and find some clothes and put them together so that they're really authentic to you. Once you have a style, that physical style, by the way, someone can then really help curate clothes for you. But really, really, really tough, everybody, if you don't have that personal style first. Does that make sense? Just like a vocal coach. Can I just go backwards before we talk about the audience for a second? I can't tell you how many artists just say, make me a great singer, make me into a great singer. But really, I want to pick up on what you're already doing, that's winning, things that you're already doing that light you up. And when we do exercises or we work on songs, what I'm looking for as your coach is that I'm really helping you create more and more and more definition around your personality, more and more definition around your physicality, your physical performance, and your vocal performance. Does that make sense? So that we're getting that comparison, like we were just saying earlier. But here is the next part, right? If I want to stand out first to myself, I know who I am. I know what looks good on me physically. I know how to communicate who I am really well in terms of my speaking voice and my energy levels. It's definitely connected to the story of my songs, the kind of music that I'm making. Whatever it is that you do. Okay. So it even is like, does this reflect being an accountant? Does this reflect being a lawyer, depending on the kind of, thinking about a lawyer, what do they wear? Often they wear a suit. Why do they wear a suit? Because it reflects a trustworthiness that they are professional, that they're wearing the uniform, right? If you were going to a hockey game and the hockey players decided to wear different clothes than the hockey equipment, you'd be like, what's going on? Or if the team of that hockey team wasn't wearing the same uniform and they were all different, how would you differentiate between one team or another? I think this is where the artist gets a little confused, because you want to show your diversity, where in fact what we're really trying to find is familiarity. We're trying to find association. We're trying to find that recognition that it is the same. You can trust me. I'm going to show up with the same personality, whether one person shows up onto this program or no one shows up or 1,000 people show up. Lorraine Lawson is going to show up the same. And so what is that? That's a muscle that I have to develop. And I really like to think about developing these muscles in terms of physical performance, vocal performance, to reflect what I do as behind the curtain. Okay, what is happening behind the curtain? Super, super, super important. Once I know what that is and I feel confident in who I am and what I do and that it's in alignment, I want to start thinking about who am I doing it for? And so who am I doing it for at first is getting back to what we did earlier, which is really the one-to-one. It's like, I got to attract myself. People often, this is you, are going to attract people who dress similarly, who speak similarly, who have the same energy levels, the same optimism about life. It's very tough if you're an optimist to be around a pessimist. Yeah, it might be interesting at first at a dinner party, let's say, or a bar, and you meet someone who's completely opposite to you. And it's kind of fascinating at first, but prolonged relationship, usually we're going for like to like. So this is me, and I want to attract those similar qualities to me. If I haven't done enough work on myself, it's going to be really hard to know how to attract that. Where most artists are trying to kind of leapfrog here is that they're trying to go one to many too soon. You're trying to go one to many too soon. Does that make sense? It's like you want to get here so fast. You're in a hurry, right, to get here. But along the way, what ends up happening is, well, first of all, it doesn't happen. Usually there's a break here. But often then they determine you. Does this make sense? They start to determine you instead of you determining who you are. This used to happen a lot more in the entertainment business at the beginning of the movie era, let's say, when people were created, when Marilyn Monroe was created to be Marilyn Monroe. And I'm sure you can think of a million examples of that where people's names were changed, their hair colors were changed. They had a real creation behind the industry to mold this person into who they wanted them to be. Of course, this was also a very dangerous time where people, because the personality or the persona to the audience was so different than who a person was, we see a crack. And in that crack, people often get into drugs and alcohol and problems because who they are and who the perception to the audience is just too big of a difference. Does that make sense? Okay. So what is then in between becomes you to few. And this is actually where you can monetize. This is actually the gold right here. It's not here. And I can tell you, even when brands really were looking for spokespeople, let's say online, and they wanted people to wear their clothes and endorse their music, could be their hair products, finding really a personality to represent, hair color or makeup or any number of association celebrity to the product. They would often go for an artist or a celebrity that had many, many, many followers. But they found that when a person has millions of followers, of those millions, how many people wear glasses, for example? Really hard to sell glasses when so few people in this 1 to millions wear glasses. So isn't it better if I go to a person that already is wearing glasses naturally, meaning this artist or celebrity wears glasses already, as opposed to here, the artist that does not wear glasses? Does this make sense? Are you following the kind of the logic around this? And so this few becomes justifiable through validation. I'm finding people at the beginning of anybody's career where they're attracting themselves in terms of personality, in terms of even possibly how they dress and how they talk and how they walk, okay? But then these people start to tell people about, and they start to tell their friends. And now you're standing on stages with even more people. This is kind of cool because these people start to become what I'm going to call super fans. Often these people will follow an artist all over the world to hear them perform. Look at Taylor Swift. I mean, people think of that as one to many. I would say she's actually one to few. I know that sounds crazy, but she's at such a point where it's really all super fans. We're not talking about just broad stroke people that don't know who she is and it's kind of appealing to masses. No, these people show up and they feel like they're part of a movement, a smaller mission, so to speak. She's attracting herself just on a really huge level. Does that make sense? Many artists here also, let's say, are performing for 200 people, 300-person venues, 500-person venues. They can sell more merch here than they can here. These people tend to come to more and more shows, multiple shows. I can tell you just from artists that I work with alone, this is really working. And then going physically to the different territories in the world where those few can really grow and expand. So are you guys all following this in terms of the audience? 1 to 1, 1 to few, which is where we can actually start to monetize, sell merch, and really cater to that artist relationship to the audience. And then, of course, do we all want 1 to many? Well, we do, but we want the 1 to many at this point to really be at the level of Taylor Swift, right? We really do want this to feel like the many is actually few. You know who else has done this so incredibly well in their career is Bruce Springsteen. He is I've seen him multiple times where he can turn 40,000, 60,000 people, arena venues into feeling like they're at a bar. Or Mick Jagger of the Rolling Stones, if he goes out into a satellite stage, he makes people feel like they're really the most important people on the planet. So even though it's many, it's still feeling like we're experiencing something real. We're experiencing something connected. And that's where we can start to earn money. Does this make sense to everyone? So why do some of the artists that I just spoke about do this so well? So I want you to write this down. I was in preparation for today, but for much of my coaching, I try to learn as much as I can, as I know all of you want to learn too, to get better, to keep improving, right? And so one of the things is that I've been listening to a number of podcasts and listening to some neuroscientists. Joe Dispenza is a very interesting person in the world of neuroscience. and how we can really stand out in the world. The other person that just did a great podcast with Stephen Bartlett, and I highly recommend that everyone go listen to it, is Wendy Suzuki, Dr. Wendy Suzuki. And she was talking about how the brain works and why this is so important. And I'm going to take you through it. The first way of being memorable or standing out, okay? So if we're standing out here, and we want to be memorable, because this is where, again, we can earn money. It's very difficult to earn money if you're amazing here. It's good, but this is actually, like I said, where you're going to start to earn money. So why does this work? Is the first level of our memory and how our brain really connects to things is through repetition. If I'm doing this enough, and really attracting myself, and I'm out there and I'm sharing it and I'm showing it and I'm sharing it and I'm showing it and I'm sharing it and I'm showing it, all of a sudden, just through repetition alone, people will start to associate. That's why it's so important that if you are an artist or an entrepreneur of any kind and you're trying to build an audience, so don't forget, people who are professionals, people who have a job, don't necessarily have to stand out the same way that you do if you're the CEO of your own business, right? And everyone in music has to start looking at themselves as if they are the CEO of their business. And who are they attracting? Are the people that have similar personalities to them. So if I'm using social media as one of the ways to connect to these people wherever they are in the world, it's never been easier, by the way. You can connect to yourself anywhere in the world. And trust me, there are people the same age demographic that wearing the same clothes, looking like you, talking like you, wanting to listen to the same music as you, right? Just really maybe have the same sense of humor as you. You just have to be making these kinds of posts over and over and over in terms of your mission, your statements. What are you showing? Music. If you're making music, you got to be putting out music literally every month, every 6 weeks, every 8 weeks. Why? Repetition, repetition, repetition. So that is one of the amazing ways that we can really start to stand out, is just through repetition. The second way that we want to do this is through association. So that's what I was saying, is the one-to-one, one-to-one. So I am now associating to these people as my personality, and I've taken the time to know what those personality traits are, what my story is, what is connecting to them. So I'm really doing that. The third way to be memorable that you know works is to do something shocking, to do something extraordinary, to do something novel. Taylor Swift, again, of course, we're all using Taylor Swift over many years, but I've been using Taylor Swift for like 20 years, okay? Because I've been following her career very, very closely, is that at the beginning of her career, when she shifted from country to pop music, she really did some amazing things. One of them was that she paid off her fans' tuitions, many. She showed up to people's weddings, graduations, just spontaneous, just completely spontaneously. Drake, even just this year, had a segment within his show where he stood out. People brought signs because that's become a big part of his show. And they're like, I'm just graduating university. Okay, I will pay your tuition off. Boom. And he's making these very huge, extraordinary things come true for people. That's a way to stand out. What is something that you can do to make you stand out, just as you're thinking about it, that makes it sort of novel or exciting? So nice to have you here, by the way, guys. Okay, so the last thing that the neuroscientists are really talking about in terms of our brain and what gets recognition, what gets that kind of shock and awe to make someone really stand out, is finally some kind of emotional resonance, where in this one-to-one, and eventually one-to-few and one-to-many, we're kind of creating a feeling. And when you think about the artists that you love or the people that are doing extraordinary things in the world, they don't really shift their political views that much. They're not shifting their optimism to pessimism. They're not shifting their energy level from high energy to low energy. Does this make sense from where we started today? So, when we started today, we really talked about those broad stroke personality types as the guiding force of the who you are. And you really want to look at them. They are often not how you choose to be, they're in you already. But you want to start to differentiate between what those broad stroke personality types are, because that emotional connection is really what makes people stand out the most. It's the feeling that they get when they put on your music. It's the feeling they get when they show up to your show. It's the feeling that they get when they show up to your social media and they watch a post. And if you are showing too many different personality types here, it's hard for them to trust you. So, to really stand out, what we always say in our coaching is that consistency wins. Now, for a lot of people, consistency is boring. But let me tell you something. If you want to grow in this very organic way, right? We're not trying to accelerate to the one to many. This is trust. And when people trust you that they can rely on a feeling. Oh my gosh, when I go to that person's social media, they always make me feel inspired. When I show up to a program, they always make me feel so motivated. When I show up to a show, I feel joy. Last night, I told you I saw Stacey K perform with 100-person choir, amateur singers at the most gorgeous venue in Toronto. And it was just pure joy. You could see it on each and every choir's face, the joy of singing, the joy of singing this music. And people came and they left feeling joy. I think it would be really fair to say there wouldn't have been one person, many, let's say there are 1,000 people there, that left not feeling the same feeling. And so sometimes when we're here, we think, oh, I want to take people on this emotional journey. I want to take them everywhere. But that isn't a good strategy for standing out. Does this make sense to everybody? Okay, cool. Well, that's kind of the work that we were going to do today. Any questions, Kirsten? Any questions? All right, guys, I'm going to zone out on this YouTube for now, and I'm going to take some questions. But I just want to really focus on this for another second here. Really think about what is it that you want. Really focus in on what is the feeling that you want to give people. Don't get so wrapped up in what you do. So before I take any questions, I just want to really take that back for a second and go one step back and say, what is the feeling that you want to get? And I'm going to throw that question out to all of you and leave it in the comments. And I'll see you another time on how to stand out. Mm-hmm. How cool are you? Oh, hang on a second.